we are most likely not going to be able to go to Machu Picchu, which sucks, but
oh yeah, I do know.
So we found cheap flights for Peru for January 2022 back in November and decided to pounce. A lot of the articles that we read mentioned that January is the middle of Peru's rainy season, which we honestly didn't think too much of. We were like, it's fine, we'll bring rain jackets, it'll be totally fine. As the date approached, we excitedly made plans to do all of the typical touristy things, Lima, Cusco, and of course Machu Picchu. We first flew to Fort Lauderdale for a layover, and then arrived at Lima at midnight, and then the next morning we flew into Cusco. So we have made it to Cusco. A lot of uncertainty in this trip. Everything felt fine up until 48 hours ago, the night before our flight out of the US, when we received word that there was a landslide in Aguascalientes, which is the main town where you start your tour for Machu Picchu. And so we were kind of scrambling, trying to figure out what are we going to do for the first half of our trip if the train is closed and we can't go to Machu Picchu. But we've made it to Cusco. We changed our plans. It sounds like the train station is still closed tomorrow, so we might move around a few of our other things on the itinerary and do that instead and just kind of wing it. Fingers crossed that we'll still be able to go, but if not, it is what it is. There's far bigger problems than my vacation getting disrupted going on. So that afternoon, we went to Sacsayhuaman, where we ran into Fredi, who was a super friendly tour guide and took us around the site. Cusco was considered the capital of the Incan civilization, and the Incas were architectural geniuses. They constructed these large stone structures that didn't require any binding or cement because the stones fit nearly perfectly together, and they also didn't shift around whenever there was an earthquake, which helped preserve them to the present day. Fredi told us about Intipuku, which was the sun gate, a doorway where the sun would shine through at certain points in the day and certain points of the year. In Incan culture, the sun was regarded as a god. Animals also held a lot of spiritual significance in Peruvian history, specifically the condor, the puma, and the snake. The condors signified the heavens, while the pumas represented power and the snake stood for wisdom. Fredi told us about lupin beans and how they're super high in fiber, how the Peruvians imported eucalyptus from Australia, and at the end of the path, we had this incredible view of Cusco. We even walked down together to the Plaza de Armas, and he ended up giving us advice on our situation with Machu Picchu. By the evening, the altitude sickness started creeping up on us. I had a pretty bad headache and struggled to fall asleep. So if you ever go, make sure to take it easy on your first day. Drink a lot of water, rest a lot, don't push yourself too hard. The next day, we went to the Peru rail office to try to figure out the situation about Machu Picchu. Sadly, they said that the train station wouldn't be operating until at least Friday, but our flight back to Lima was on Thursday, so we were really bummed, but still determined to make the most of our time in Cusco. We walked around the Plaza de Armas, which is the main town square. It has a ton of stores and restaurants that are mostly catered towards tourists, and there are a lot of locals walking around and trying to sell you tours, jewelry, clothes, art, things like that. There were also Peruvian women and girls that were dressed up in traditional clothing with alpacas, and they usually accepted tips in exchange for photos. The hills of Cusco are hilly and pretty narrow. Most of them are one way, and every few minutes you'll have cars slowly driving through, wobbling over the stone roads. That night, we contacted Fredi to see if he could take us on a tour of a few other historical sites. We felt like without him, we wouldn't have been able to fully appreciate and understand the sites that we visited. Otherwise, we'd just be walking around, commenting on cool rocks. So the next day, we started at Kenko, which means labyrinth in Quechua. The area was thought to be used for sacrifices to the moon and sun, including blood sacrifices of llamas. Fredi had noted that more Peruvians were starting to travel domestically within Peru, especially after COVID began, which was maybe due to the realization that life is short, as well as a desire to better understand their own heritage.
To the Pachamama, right?
Right.
Also, they did ceremonies in honor to the moon.
Oh yeah, lunar.
Moon also was very important during the times. Moon is a symbol of the mother. The sun represents the father.
Next, we went to Puka Pukara, which is over 12,000 feet above sea level. One absolutely crazy thing that he told us was that messengers would participate in what was essentially a relay race up and down the mountains to relay messages between royalty in different cities. And apparently this site was a tambo, or a resting place for the people who transported messages.
Oh, it's really coming down.
After that, we stopped by a llama and alpaca zoo that had a textile co-op that was attached to it called Manos de la Comunidad, and they were so cute.
Oh. I got hello.
These ones are
Brown, black, gray, all natural. But this one we can get from vegetable dyes. For example, we use this purple corn to get the purple colors.
Yeah.
And also coca leaves, flowers to get the yellow colors.
Okay.
To get the red and orange colors, let me show you. Have you heard about this beetle? Live in the cactus. From that we can get more than 25 tonalities between red and orange colors. Let me show you.
Yeah.
After that, we ended up in Tambomachay. Every site that we went to, Fredi recognized someone and someone recognized Fredi. He's been in the industry for over 15 years and is a legitimate expert. Tambomachay is known or regarded as El Baño del Inca, or the bath of the Inca, and was thought to be a spa for Incan royalty. Fredi told us that Peru has over 35 dialects, and during this expedition we talked about Quechua, which was a language that originated among the indigenous people of Peru. After that, Fredi then drove us back to downtown Cusco. There are a lot of dogs in the streets. Some of them are strays, but a lot of them actually belong to a family. And in Peru, dogs are usually left outside and taught to guard the house, but the family feeds it, and that's how the loyalty is established. So in downtown Peru, we wandered around, grabbed a drink at a rooftop bar, and did a quick walkthrough through El Mercado San Pedro.